What's up, everybody? Welcome back to First Class Podcast, where we talk about Bitcoin, crypto, NFTs, DeFi, Web3, everything you need to navigate this fast moving industry. Who are we talking to from the DeFi world today, JB?
Today we had the amazing Chiente Hsu. That's her name?
That's Dr. Chiente to you.
We had the amazing Dr. Chiente Hsu. I don't know about you, but I felt like I was in class today. We're usually educating. She was on here dropping gems, all types of information. One of the most amazing minds in this space that a lot of people don't know about. So this conversation was probably top 10 in my opinion.
Yeah, and she talked about things from the very beginning of why it's important for financial literacy to help people understand how their money works, and then talking about building all of those financial services in a decentralized way on the blockchain. We talked about Bitcoin. We talked about stablecoins. We talked about there's a number of things, but stick to the end because she also has a word for women in crypto. All right, here's our episode with Dr. Chiente Hsu. All right, so Chiente, appreciate you joining us today. There's a lot of people listening who probably maybe they're into NFTs and they don't know too much about DeFi, or maybe they are just not into the Stacks ecosystem and they haven't heard about Alex and stuff. So why don't you start by telling everybody a little bit about your background and a little bit about the platform that you all built called Alex.
Sure. Thank you for having me today, especially just now I explained to you, the stupid mistake I made, and you have been so kind. I feel like I have been crying on your shoulder via the Zoom. So thank you for being such a wonderful friend for me right now. So my name is Chiente Hsu. I grew up in Taiwan, and then we moved to Vienna, Austria. That's where I received my PhD, and I also became a tenure-track professor there. And then I joined Wall Street a little bit more than 2 decades ago. Because of my background, I became a quant on the Wall Street. So what I did is coming up with a purely rule-based systematic investment strategies for the investors to invest. So I did that at Credit Suisse, and I moved to Morgan Stanley doing the same thing. And the systematic or rule-based trading strategy is just like smart contract. They are algorithms. So, myself and my team were very familiar of, writing smart contract, if you want to say that. And then after 2008, the great financial crisis, as we all know, the banking industry became very, very inefficient, right? You have this overblown middle back offices because because of the regulation, they have to have, huge balance sheet in order to have enough capitalization of the bank, et cetera, et cetera. So it became really inefficient. Just to give you an idea, that my daughter is 15, right? We took her to Citibank to get a debit card. She wanted to have a debit card. She got interviewed 4 hours. And, in the jargon of finance, she is fully collateralized in the sense that the mom and dad, we back her up, right? She couldn't get a credit card or debit card. She couldn't get a debit card. So this is a very simple example of how the banking industry become so cautious, but because of that, they exclude a lot of people to be banked. I mean, I guess 3 of us, we are all very kind of used to having bank account, having credit card. But for many, many people, they can't even get a bank account. And what does it mean you can't get a bank account? There's a profound impact in your life, right? You can't save, you can't get a mortgage, etc., etc., etc. So you're being excluded from this world of finance that is so important for wealth accumulation of your generation and your children. During the COVID, my co-founder, my wonderful co-founder Rachel, and myself, and also our CTO, we sat down. We said, okay, we want to build a bank on the blockchain with a vision that it is going to be permissionless, without any centralized authority, and nobody can shut you down. So basically, a bank for the bank as well as a bank. And that's how we started Alex. Alex stands for Automated Liquidity Exchange. We have chosen, as you rightly said so before, on stacks, but stack is a fully expressive smart contract settled on Bitcoin. So Alex is really a DeFi protocol settled on Bitcoin via stack smart contract. I think that's a very long answer for your very short question.
No, that's great. That covers a lot. I know Jawan was probably going to ask a little bit more about DeFi before I dive into a few more questions that I had, but go ahead, JB.
Well, I mean, so just a little bit about myself is I don't really have the finance background that you yourself and Courtney have, but I have been learning on the way. So I'll be learning a lot during this episode as well. But for you, what made you want to dive into DeFi, leave Wall Street, leave what you were doing and build Alex and everything that you're doing today?
Right. I think that's an excellent question. Number one is because of my co-founder and my CTO. I suddenly learned that there's this technology called blockchain, and there is this blockchain called Bitcoin that enable you to build DeFi and other services, other protocols that is truly decentralized, right? What decentralization means, again, there's no middleman. There's no CEO of Alex protocol, right? That also means that number one, if you don't have middleman, it means that the transaction become very, very cost efficient. I give you another story, which you might have heard. My husband comes from Senegal. So my mother-in-law lives in Dakar. And every time we try to send her money, the middleman, which we know is Western Union, will charge 8 to 12%. And it's not instantaneous, right? She'll get it maybe the week after, right? But think about if I have a wallet, my mom has a wallet, I send her Bitcoin, it's instantaneous. Nobody charge anything other than very, very little gas fee, right? I think at the moment, stack gas fee, that sometimes like 1 cent, right? Mm-hmm. And she can take this money and, do whatever she needs to do. So I think that's what a lot of people think DeFi. I totally understand thing about, what is farming, staking, all this really weird stuff that people are doing. But at the end of the day, it's really about payment. It's about saving. It's about borrowing, right? If you want to boil it down to what the bank does for us, bank does exchanges, right? Bank does, we can save our money, right? On Alex, you can do that too. And bank, if you have the right credit, you can borrow. But on Alex, right? If you have the collateral, you can borrow as well. So it's very similar to a bank. And we like to say, some people might not like it, we like to say we are better Goldman, but build on blockchain, build on Bitcoin. Yeah. So I think that's a reason, that's the reason why we decided to leave Wall Street and say, okay, that model is old. The Wall Street banking model is old. We want to adapt a new technology, which is Bitcoin, to build the same services. And it can benefit many, many, many more people.
Totally. A lot of those financial services are, to your point, there's basic ones like saving, transacting, buying stuff and whatnot. But I think if anything, that pandemic really revealed how important it is for people to own assets that appreciate in value over time. Like the cost of living has gone up for no matter who you are, the cost of living has gone up. But the people who own assets, they haven't been affected to the same degree as people who have not been owning assets. And if I'm not mistaken, it's somewhere in around like 40, 50, maybe 60% of people in the US own equities, which is the traditional investment vehicle. Maybe some people own real estate, but there's a large amount of people who don't own any investable assets. So DeFi gives people an opportunity, and even Bitcoin, just as its own, they give people an opportunity to protect their wealth over the long term. So I guess that's part of what you're trying to give people more access to in a way, right?
Absolutely. I think that's very, very eloquently said. Now, when you think about why Bitcoin is the asset or the sector is the one that we all believe that the value is going up, and why at the moment, for example, Bitcoin and other stable coins you can earn such interesting yield compared with your treasuries, right? It's because there's number one, there's use case. Think about stable coins. For example, if you are a Nigeria import export company, you buy goods from a Chinese factory, right? If you use a traditional banking system, it takes weeks for the payment to go through. Whereas if you use stable coins, for example, again, it's T plus zero. Immediately you can pay the Chinese factory the money, right? So there's a use case for the stable coins. But for Bitcoin itself, we like to call Bitcoin as a digital gold, right? And then we later can get into a little bit more nitty-gritty about why it's called digital gold. But if you believe that the Bitcoin is going to be the future payment system, right, or at least part of the future payment system, then the value of the Bitcoin has to be going up compared with it now. That's why it says, I think, you heard this news that even Fidelity's 401k, now you can invest into Bitcoin, right? And I think that's really an important step to say that, okay, there's this asset class, which is called Bitcoin or crypto, that you should consider to include in your pension plan, because the return is very, very interesting. So definitely, I agree with you that everybody should think about having Bitcoin or other cryptocurrencies in their portfolio.
Yeah, and then when you have those assets too, you can do creative things. Traditionally, people know that you have a property and you can take a mortgage, and basically that's like a loan against an asset that if it came down to it, they could take your house, and that's what gives them the comfort in loaning you out the money. And so I guess that's partially the relationship between stable coins and other digital assets is more volatile, like a Bitcoin, for example.
Bitcoin.
Right. Mm-hmm. And I think from what I understand, that's one of the big promises of stacks, is that eventually when they unlock the ability to do all these DeFi activities, these financial services like borrowing and lending and whatnot, and tie in Bitcoin, then a platform like Alex is going to really benefit from the overall Bitcoin ecosystem booming. So talk to us a little bit about what you're building on Alex, what the team is putting together. I know it's already established. It's been out. I feel like you guys ship something like every 2 weeks.
I know.
It's crazy.
It's very exhausting.
Yeah.
Keep on telling us. Sorry, you can't relax right now. We have the next thing rolling out.
Yeah, you all just shipped Wrap USDC, so that's called XUSD. That's a second stable coin that's on the platform now. And I know you have borrowing and lending with fixed rate, fixed term coming up soon. So tell us why it was important to add a second stable coin, and what's the value of having stable coins? Like, what does a user benefit, and maybe a small user, maybe big people with a lot of capital? How does having more stable coin liquidity help them?
Right. So stablecoin is almost like the link between crypto world and fiat world, right? That's why it's called stable, right? Because denominated in dollar, it should not move. The value should be 1-to-1. Why it is so important? Because it is a link between currently these two worlds, which is still quite segregated. So I always like to tell this story. Have you heard about this most expensive pizza?
Oh yeah, right? the Bitcoin pizza.
Some dude bought the pizza, right? And then there's another story I heard, which is a little bit like a variation, which is a true story. Is the CEO of Bitcoin Swiss, that's the oldest custodial for Bitcoin for institution as well as for family offices. He told me that he bought for his wife a horse as a birthday present, but he was very happy that even in a horse stable in Bavaria, they accept Bitcoin. So he happily bought this horse using Bitcoin, but it turned out to be the most expensive horse, right? So I told him, I said, look, if you use Alex, right, very, very soon, you just use your Bitcoin as collateral, right? And then you can borrow stable coins, and then you use a stable coin to buy your horse. And so that's exactly why we need stable coins in the Stacks ecosystem and other chain as well, is that, at the end of the day, the sandwich guy, the pizza shop, the horse stable, they still want to have stable coin or fiat money. And that's the link. So that's one, which I actually in between, I kind of squeezing what Alex is doing, right? So I always like to say Alex is your bank. It can be your bank next door, right? What is a bank? If you think about what a bank is a place. Number one, you can exchange, right? You can go to the bank, you can exchange. You can say, I have dollar. I need to go to London right now. I'm going to exchange into pound. I mean, I'm just simplified. So on Alex, you do have those, we call it DEX, decentralized exchange. You can change your, at the moment, the Rabbit coin with a stable coin as USD, and you can change between Stacks to Alex, right? Whatever you need to do, right? Nobody's going to ask the second question, why are you doing that? It's just because it's decentralized. You do what you need to do. But then also a bank is important for you to be able to save and borrow. Whatever you need is a different lifetime, different period of your lifetime. So some people, they need to borrow, right, to buy things, or you need to borrow to participate in the IDO. There are many, many exciting projects coming, right? And you say, look, this Bitcoin I'm not going to use, or this stablecoin I'm not going to use right now, so I can save it, right? And if you save it, then you can get a very interesting yield. So we offer this, fixed rate, fixed term lend and borrow facilities for Alex user. But ultimately, what makes finance so important for the growth of the economy and also for the well-being of the whole society is really not just you pay Bitcoin, I receive Bitcoin. It's about the multiplier, right? It's about, okay, some people, they want to take more risk because they feel comfortable taking more risk, right? So they want to bet on some very high yielding, strategies. But other people like myself, I'm less, risk loving. So I say, okay, then I sell you the risk. So I want to receive some premium, right? So this is a place where you can also exchange your risk preference, right? We like to say, for example, hedge fund meet pension fund, right? They exchange the risk, right? So this is a place where Alex will be as well, is that through all this liquidity pool that we already have or we are establishing, then people can start doing more sophisticated things. Just like, for example, the shoemakers, right? They need to buy leather, right? So they need to maybe, buy futures contract, to hedge their cost, right? So this type of thing that Alex will enable users to do.
And for those who have either been on your platform or maybe they'll join the platform after this podcast episode, you have Alex and you have Autoalex on the platform. Would you be able to kind of explain the difference between the two?
Yeah, sure. So, well, you know our platform really well. I'm very impressed.
So we go by the new School Degens, and it basically means that like we broke out of school, we started our own school and taught people how to be smarter about degenning and DeFi and NFTs.
Yeah. So we do a little bit of research, a lot of bit of research,
practical and theoretical. So, but no,
I'm so impressed. I love it. So Autoalex or Alex is really an innovation from the team. What it is that as a young protocol like us, right? We like people to stake Alex. Staking means that you promise, you say, Alex, to the protocol, nobody, that I'm going to put the Alex so that, you can use it for your liquidity. Now, through staking, you earn some reward, right? You earn interest and you also earn the platform, whatever the platform makes. It's profit sharing, right? Because it is a permissionless, decentralized protocol. Now, you remember that in the very beginning, every cycle you can harvest, your staking reward. And lots of people on the Discord complain. They say they even need to set alarm clock to harvest the reward. We got so many complaints that, please, can you set something automatic, right? And that's really what Autoalex is about, is that once you stake the Alex, right, you don't need to every cycle go to manually harvest your reward. It just, once you say, okay, this is Autoalex, it means that every cycle the reward will be automatically compounded. And the compound interest is really the secret of wealth accumulation. Yeah. I don't know if you have seen the Medium article and also the video we made, right? In the very beginning, it can be a very small difference, but if you compound like 2 years, the difference can be very, very high. So that's why we created Autoalex, which is, it is really a way for people to start, auto staking, automatic staking, but also to give a vehicle to harvest the compound interest. But also for people like, having complained about, they don't need to go and click it every cycle.
Your questions have been answered, people, so yes. Calm down.
Yeah, exactly. It's okay. I like to say, the most annoying customer, they complain a lot, but they are also the most loyal customers, right? Because I think if you are indifferent, just say whatever, you just leave. But you keep on complaining, make us better and better and better. That's the most loyal customer.
No, that makes sense. And so staking is like, if you want to, it's a way of improving the capital efficiency. Like, so instead of just holding on to an asset, you can hold it and put it to work to earn a yield. I think that's part of the big promise of DeFi, is the fact that, I have accounts at some banks, and it's like almost like you got to check if it's a typo. Like, you want to give me less than 1% to hold my money here? Because that's how a bank really works, right? They take your money and then they lend it out. They borrow it short, they lend it long on a mortgage or something else. Maybe the mortgage is 5%. They're giving you 1%. They're taking 4% in the middle. So basically here you're saying that you can get a better, quote unquote, interest rate or a better return putting your money to use in some of these different strategies, whether it be staking, yield farming, or other things like that. I have a question though. So I'm very interested in what's going on some other protocols or some other platforms, namely like Curve, for example, which it's a DEX as well, but they do stablecoin swaps, which is something that they call like the savings account of DeFi. Because if you're a huge DAO, if you're a crypto company and you've got serious amounts of capital that you can't afford to, see the price go down. Maybe you don't want to hold it all in Bitcoin. You don't want to hold it all in a volatile asset. You put it in stable coins, but you want it to be put to work. You could put it in a Stableswap pool and earn some yield on that. Is that something that is potentially down the road for Alex?
It's not potentially down the road. It's already in the oven. I already can smell the aroma of that cake, right? And that's exactly why we need so we have the USDA from Arcadico, and then now we have the XUSD, which is wrapped USDC. So the next step is to create this stable swap, right? And the purpose of stable swap, number one, is that the USDA will peg better, and we need that in the ecosystem. But number two, as you rightly said so, Courtney, is that if you are an LP liquidity provider of this pool of stable swap, it's almost like a riskless LP, but you still earn, right, the Alex and also A power, because as a young protocol, we need to attract the liquidity from other users. And it's relative to other pools, is restless, relative, right? So we have, for example, Alex Stacks pool. We have XBTC Stacks pool. We have now Alex USDA pool. And there are some, Bitcoin Monkey have these two tokens. We also create some pool for them. And, as an LP, you provide liquidity into those liquidity pool, and it's an impermanent loss. But the stablecoin, because they're supposed to, the impermanent loss should be minimal, but you still earn
Right. So basically when you put two like 50-50 into a pool of assets that are volatile, when you pull out at the end, you still have to pull out 50-50. But if the prices of those assets moved up and down, then you might get an impermanent loss, meaning like you might not get back the value of that token that appreciated all the way up 100x. You might only get a 50x return on it because you have to get 50-50 of the two different tokens you put in. But in a stable pool, is 1-to-1 regardless because they're both stable. So you don't have that risk of impermanent loss, more or less. I mean, that's a watered down explanation, but is that what you're saying?
Very nicely watered down version. Yes.
Yeah. How important is it for people to actually understand this stuff? Because I mean, we started out kind of talking about basics of finance and like investing and saving. And then there's some more like exotic things like being an LP, liquidity provider, staking and whatnot. But do you think most people are even ready to wrap their heads around this? And like, where do we begin teaching people? Like how do you suggest that? I don't know, JB, you had a good question about this. Like, where do people begin, right?
Yeah, like as I said previously, I don't come from a finance background, and there's a lot of people that don't. And I think DeFi is obviously the way to go if you're, investing your money or if you're looking into that. So for people that may not have access to information that we do because of the networks that we've built and the people that we've been around, where would you suggest people, kind of find this information or, even begin the journey into DeFi?
The easiest way is just come and try it out, right? And you can try very, very small amount. The nice thing about stacks is that the gas fee is very, very low compared with other chains such as Ethereum. So try it out. And then try to swap, between, for example, stacks and the USDC, XUSD, try it out. Try to participate in the IDO. Don't try too big amount, try a little bit, right? Try to invest in other emerging project and try to do a little bit of LP farming, etc. I think, learning by doing is very, very powerful, right? So that's number one. Try it out. Number two, as you know, we have a Discord, and you can ask any questions on Discord. Nobody will say, oh, this question is so dumb. The community, I'm sure you're in our community. Aren't they nice? That you just say, oh, I'm right?
Yeah, I'm thinking to myself, like, do some of these people get paid to be here? It's like, they're just cool. They want to help. Exactly.
They want to help, and they are very, very helpful. Very, very helpful. Most questions are answered by the community members. They help each other. And then we also are devs, myself. We are also, and our foundation member, we are also often there. Whenever we see a question, we try to help each other. That's Web3, it's really about the community, right? And then you have this network effect. You help each other in understanding all these protocols, but you also help each other to build, because everything we do is open source.
Right.
You can just, build on top of what Alex has built, just like we build on top of Uniswap's AMM, and we try to build on Bitcoin. But the original, AMM is from Uniswap. So everybody stand on the shoulders of giants. So that's what's so powerful is network effect and community. So don't be shy. Even if you have just 5 stacks, come to play a little bit. Try to understand what each functionality is. And now, you have the Xverse version, mobile version of Alex. So it's very, very easy to do on your phone.
That wasn't there even a couple months ago. Like, Stacks is moving so fast. It makes me forget that like Alex mainnet launched in January,
January 18th.
Yeah, so you're not even 6 months old yet. You're still in diapers.
Are we already? Are we having already diapers?
Hey, so I gotta ask you a question. You talked about network effects. Obviously, crypto was for a long time was just they call them the plebs, like just the regular everyday people, right? But there's this narrative of institutions coming. So what does Stacks need to do to entice more institutions or more, whales, family offices, people who just have more capital to deploy? Like what are the building blocks that need to be laid down in order to attract those kinds of participants?
This is an excellent question because I think number one, Stack is a very, very young ecosystem. So it just started. So Stacks 2.0, the smart contract on Bitcoin started only last year, early last year. So it's very, very young ecosystem. What need to be scalable for more capitals to come for Stacks to be more relevant are a few building blocks. Number one, we need bridges, right? We need cross-chain bridges. You can't just be isolated and not talking to anybody. We live in a world, in crypto world, right? We need to be multi-chain. So at the moment, there are two bridges being built. One is going to be out very soon, and they work very closely with Alex. So stay tuned on the announcement. And two is a bridge to Ethereum, and that's led by a bunch of really high quality developers. So that's the bridge. Number two is scalability. As you all know, Bitcoin has just this 10-minute block time, right? As much as you want to scale up, you can't change the code of Bitcoin. But Stacks 2.0 has been trying to come up with innovative solutions such as micro blocks that you jam some transaction between the blocks. And that's okay, but given the growth of the ecosystem is not enough. You remember, I don't know if you remember during our IDO of Alex token, we kind of crashed the whole.
Yeah, y'all jammed up the highway.
we were so mad with it. Everybody's like complaining, where's my IDO ticket? And that's really leads to another very, very important milestone is called Hyperchain, which is subnet. And Munib and other great heroes, other great developers are working nonstop on this. And testnet is going to be out in just a few weeks. And then the mainnet is going to be out in Q3. So Alex is Hyperchain ready. Everything we build, we are Hyperchain ready. And Munib told me that it's Solana speed, right? Yeah.
Okay.
Is that some alpha right there?
That sounds impressive.
Well, if you check Munib's tweet, I think he's very, very open about this.
He is. Yeah.
We do need this speed. I think what's the difference between Stacks and other chains, if you in a hindsight, if you look at the development, is first to achieve the decentralization and then think about the scalability, right? And I think they have been really delivering everything they say they would do. So Hyperchain is there. So that's a scalability. So I talk about bridges, I talk about Hyperchain. Another thing, I think the third thing is very, very important is that how do you onboard, communicate with native Bitcoin, right? How about Bitcoin wallet? How about decentralized way of swapping between Bitcoin and other Stack native coins? And all these innovations are currently ongoing, led by different groups within the Stacks ecosystem, as well as Hero and Stacks Foundation and Trust Machine, etc., etc. So my prediction is that in 6 months' time, if latest end of this year, Stacks is going to look like a completely different place compared with end of May when we came and we joined. We were like, what? There's nothing here.
You all are building it right now. And I mean, Alex I think has probably the most active users daily on Stacks. And there's really a lot of promise, but to your point, it's almost as if you're building while it's quiet, so that when they pull the curtain back and they turn on the spotlight, that you're ready for showtime. It's You don't want to have all that attention and the infrastructure isn't laid, and then it's a poor experience, right? You want to have it ready for game day, ready for showtime.
Oh, I love that. It's so beautifully said. I know that there's very thriving ecosystem on other chains, and some are very, very loud. They're always on your face, right? You know, like on Twitter, on Discord, in NVIDIA, very, very loud. And Stacks is relatively quiet. The people are they're very nice people, very supportive, but relatively quiet, right? And exactly like you say, I think lots of us, we just, duck our heads, say, okay, let's just build and prove the concept. Once the concept is proven, now two challenges: scalability, onboarding wider users, and tell people, loud as you can, DeFi on Bitcoin, NFT on Bitcoin, game on Bitcoin is here.
What would you say? And I don't know if you have an opinion or not, and either of you could answer this question actually, but what would you say to the Bitcoiners that say that Bitcoin doesn't need anything built on top of it, that is perfect as it is? What would you say to that group of people?
Oh, so they're like my mom who put her cash under her mattress. What is good for the society if you do that, right?
Yeah.
You want money to work. There's a multiplier effect of giving them, make the money work as collateral so that people can borrow, right? Or put in a savings account so the DeFi project like us can use as a liquidity and then to do something else. I understand where they come from, but people like us, we are not trying to change the code of Bitcoin. We are trying to use Bitcoin as a money layer to build on top of it. So it's two very different stories. Nobody ever want to rewrite the code of Bitcoin, but we want to use Bitcoin as a technology to build DeFi on top of it, because that's the most decentralized, permissionless, and secure blockchain in the human history. I remember I had lunch with somebody who is a co-founder of Blockstack. He said that I am a horrible marketer. Right? He said that you haven't done a good job at all. I said, what? He said, I have Bitcoin. I didn't even know that I can put into Autoalex and earn this 600% APR, right? He said, line up all the Bitcoin maximalists in the room, tell them, I give you 600 APR, you want it or not? See who will leave the room. So I think lots of people really just don't know that there's a place like Stacks that is tethered on Bitcoin. There's a protocol like Alex that is so young that it needs your Bitcoin to work and willing to share with you all the profit. So, that's why I'm so grateful that with this, having this opportunity of talking to you and to your audience, that this is not scam. My mom said, why you give people 600, 800 APS? This sounds, you scammer. I said, no, Mom. There's a reason why.
Imagine that. My mom doesn't even know what an APR is, but she will appreciate this conversation.
It's not scammer. It's that I'm not an ape. You know who I am. You can find me, Rachel, all the team members, right? We are compliant, right? We are reputable. We are building a financial infrastructure on Bitcoin. How good can you get? And we share with your profit. You complain that profit is this high.
Yeah, it's unbelievable because this isn't been what people are used to, right? We're used to getting, let me get 0.25%, please. That's what I want because that's what I'm used to, right? But no, it's shaking up the world. It's making people look at things differently. So it's it's refreshing, honestly. And I don't want to say everybody, you know, go jump in your nearest yield farm and just throw your whole life savings in there. Obviously, this is just information for people to, you know, it's the tip of the iceberg. Go and do some more research and find out how these things work, you know, how what the risks and the potential rewards are. But the more you know, the more you can do. And I think that's ultimately what the goal of conversations like this are: expose people to ideas, teach them a little something here or there, and get them started on the right path.
Definitely. And if you think about, the big news about Fidelity having a 401k, including Bitcoin as a possible investment, I think that's step one, right? But hopefully, when DeFi like Alex has the mass adoption with a yield, as high as hopefully down the road, right? If you put your Bitcoin, you can earn 8 to 10% yield, and you feel safe and secure because it's built on Bitcoin. And hopefully we can provide this relatively high yield to the mainstream, and they feel safe. They feel, it's not something that they cannot easily access to it. This is something that, we can offer to the mainstream.
Getting close to the end here, I wanted to ask you a question, and maybe it's a little bit off on a tangent, but you don't see many female leaders in crypto. You don't see many female leaders in finance, really, if you think about it.
You don't see many female leaders anywhere.
You know what I mean? And so I gotta, first of all, tip my hat to you, because you're an amazing ambassador for the space and for your projects and for the companies that you represent and the investors who invested in you. But what does it mean to you to, kind of represent what the possibilities could be? Because people sometimes got to see something before they could believe it.
I really, really appreciate this question. And I'm a little bit emotional when we talk about this subject, right? Rachel, my wonderful co-founder, and myself, we are both moms. Together we have 3 kids. Her kid name is Alex. That's why we came up with this name, Alex. 3 o'clock in the morning, I said, Rachel, let's just call you Alex. It's automated liquidity exchange. And I have
Perfect.
2 teenagers. Yeah. I think crypto is a perfect sector for women. Why? Because crypto, the work there in crypto, the challenges, the job or the work, whatever you want to call it, is very decomposable. You can be NFT artist, you can be educator like yourself, hosting podcasts. You can be a community leaders. You can be developers. You can be founders like myself. And because crypto trades 24/7, it means that you can work at any hours and you can work anywhere. It's borderless. You just need internet access, which my Wi-Fi is not that great today. I apologize. So it's a perfect sector. I think about my previous life on Wall Street. I had to be in the office. I had to travel around the world to see clients. I'm not with my kids, but here I can work out of my kitchen, my living room. I see the kids, and I can say, okay, today I need to work Asia hours. Tomorrow I work, US hours. So it's very, very decomposable and very flexible. So I encourage all the women, if you are interested, you don't need to be a developer. You can be community leader. You can be an NFT artist, right? You can be educator. This is a perfect sector for women. And I hope more and more women will, join force with me and with Rachel to contribute whatever we can in this really wonderful sector, and that's called crypto.
It's amazing. And I just wanted to say personally that me and Courtney have been following what you've been doing in the space for months now. And it's been amazing to see your journey, and what in crypto is a long period of time happen in a short period of time. And just even seeing all the different podcasts and all the opportunities you have to educate and speak has been amazing. And it's been our pleasure to have you on here, because you're doing like a world podcast news tour right now, and you stopped by to be on here. And I'm personally excited to just see everything that you build, and you building like the following and kind of reputation that we know that you're going to have in this space. So huge thank you to you.
And my thank is to you. I know that, it's not easy to, whatever we have to do in the daily life challenges and to set up this platform, start really from zero, right? From the scratch, right? First educate yourself, then set up the platform and attract the audiences to become a platform that the people will come and contribute. It's not easy at all. So my gratefulness, as well as I applaud to you of your effort. Hey, we all in this together.
Yeah.
Either we
100%.
die together, right? Or we will be successful together.
We all go to zero together.
Yes.
That's how it feels right now.
Yes.
The market is
Yes.
struggling right now, but I'm with you. Hey,
Yes.
so tell everybody where they can follow along with your story, also where they can tap into Alex.
Sure. So we are on Twitter, which is at AlexGoBTC. And my own Twitter account is rule-based invest. And on Discord is, Discord and then whatever, /AlexGo. And our app is app.alexlab.co. And there is the protocol that you should, or you can, experiment a little bit. So that's where you can find us. We have also a website, which is alexlab.co, where you can find our white papers or the links and GitHub, and then, have a look of all the open source code we have, etc., etc.
Perfect.
Or they can just DM you and you know where to find us.
Flood the DM, folks. I'll send you a link. Perfect.
Exactly.
All right, Chiente, we appreciate it. Thank you.
I'm so grateful. Thank you so much for having us. Thank you.